The Clean Energy Show is made possible by listeners like you who support us on Patreon. Each month, our Clean Club donation tiers and higher get a shout-out on the podcast. So, thank you to John Heese, Clean Club Plus, Richard W., Landon Yu, Sean Ennis, Roshan Gervais, Tiernan, Weldon Penner, Josh Engen, Peter O'Donnell, Andy Fessler, Brett Routley, Clean Club Executive Member, Wes S., Clean Club Plus, Sean Hines, Green Bastard, Clean Club Executive Member, and Bob Armstrong, Clean Club Plus, as well as Timo Kellenberger. Thank you all. A special shout out to our newest Clean Club members, Denny, Linda, and Jonathan Dick. Thank you. Join today at patreon.com/cleanenergypod.
Hello and welcome to episode 274 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm James Whittingham. This week I take you through my 4,000-kilometer EV odyssey to the west coast of Canada. It's like me making you watch my vacation slideshow, but just with audio.
Nice. Russian hackers were able to take control of a dam in Norway. And then they did the most dastardly thing imaginable. They released some water from it for about 4 hours. Okay, that's not too exciting, but the hacking part is exciting.
Can working at a gas station and getting exposed to neurotoxins make you a deranged lunatic who wants to work at a gas station? The answer will surprise you if your brain hasn't been massively exposed to hydrocarbons.
The state of Colorado now requires an air quality warning label on gas stoves. The motto for those appliances will go from "now you're cooking with gas" to "now you're cooking with benzene."
All that by shocking climate realization from salmon and a backlog of your letters on this edition of The Clean Energy Show.
All right, we got a lot to do, so let's get right into it, and let's do Brian's TV Corner.
James's TV Corner, like Brian's TV Corner, but better.
Yeah, okay, that's all we got.
And it's also a movie corner. I've got one of each, and they both
Brian's
have a clean
corner. There we go.
Thanks. They both have a clean energy connection, but last show before we took a break, I was talking about going to see the new Naked Gun movie, which I was very excited about. And I went to see it in the theater. It's been a while since I've seen a comedy in a theater. It's a thing that people don't do so much anymore, to the point where, like, do you remember when Top Gun Maverick came out and Tom Cruise recorded a special introduction for it, like, thank you for coming back to the movies? Mm-hmm. Well, they had a tongue-in-cheek one for this as well. It was
Is that right?
Liam Neeson. Yeah. Liam Neeson doing a public service announcement for, bring comedy back to the theaters or something. And he says it in a very serious tone. And because it's just giant blockbuster action movies that tend to get released in theaters. So they're trying to start this up again of, okay, it's time to start doing comedy in movie theaters again. So he does this very straight-faced thing about, and then there's a website like savecomedy.org or something, and you go to it and it's promo for the Naked Gun movie. So that was funny right off the top. I enjoyed it right off the top, and then laughed through the whole movie. It's excellent. I loved it. It was so great. Liam Neeson, nobody can replace Leslie Nielsen. Like, Liam Neeson does okay, but Leslie Nielsen is so iconic in that role that, he does okay. But Pamela Anderson was the one I really enjoyed. She has an amazing scene. I don't want to spoil it, but an amazing scene at a nightclub where she's singing, and that was hysterical. So I thought she was great. But anyway, there is a sort of a clean energy angle to the plot line in it. The bad guy is this sort of tech mogul guy who's got an electric car, like a smart electric car that drives itself. And so there's some jokes about this car running over people or whatever, like, smart car jokes. The gull-wing doors that open up and whack someone in the head and that kind of thing. But anyway, what they used was a Hyundai Ioniq 6, which they modified. So if you didn't necessarily know cars, you wouldn't have known it was a Hyundai. They added extra pieces to it. They used to do that all the time, like in the 70s and 80s, if it was a science fiction movie set in the future. They would just take some normal car and then kind of add pieces to it to make it look futuristic. So they did that to sort of disguise that it was a Hyundai, and that was the sort of evil genius's car. So yeah, some funny sort of clean energy electric car jokes for that.
Well, last night I watched Happy Gilmore 2. I've never seen Happy Gilmore 1. I don't know what motivated. I guess there's a lot of promos around it, a lot of podcast talk, so I checked it out. I will not endorse it. I didn't hate it, but, I enjoy comedy effort. We were just talking about that pre-show as you're watching me write my jokes on the live Google document, and I feel like because it was on Netflix, like his kids are in it, Adam Sandler's kids are in it.
Yeah.
Like they're just not trying as hard, like is making a concise, solid movie. It's like we can do whatever we want. We have the money and people are going to watch, and they do. And I did. And they're entertained, but it's just not the theatrical. This wouldn't fly in a theater quite the same way.
Yeah. Well, I love a dumb comedy, so I was planning to watch it, but then I saw like the running time is something like 2 hours or something, which is way too long for a comedy. I'd have to check that, but I think it's too long. Like the original Happy Gilmore was a tight 90 minutes.
As they should be, as comedy should be.
Yes, they should be. And Naked Gun is like 85 or 90 minutes, which was perfect. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I was thinking of starting a movie review channel and just reviewing movies based on the running time. Like you just look and see, there's a new Adam Sandler movie. It's 122 minutes. It's a comedy. No way this is going to be any good. And
didn't feel the need to cut it down.
But editing is so important, people. It's especially for comedy, keeping things tight.
Oh, and at the end of the film, there's this one joke in the film where the bad guy has a electric Rolls Royce, and he loses it, and Sandler gets it at the end. And the end of the film is, it's at 0%. I should have charged it, and that's the big joke, which kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, that doesn't even, sure. I mean,
it's like it's got a Rolls Royce voice, battery 0%. So he walks down the highway. I felt a bit negative about that.
Well, I'm going to talk about some electric cars in the next one too. So this is a TV show. This is Brian's TV Corner.
Okay.
So as you know, I sort of got caught up in these Scandinavian crime thriller shows. I watched a couple of them, like one from Denmark, one from Sweden. And so now I watched one from Finland, and I was excited about that because I know we have listeners in Finland. So I'd be curious to hear if, this show is huge in Finland, but it's Deadwind, which is on Netflix. It's a sort of Netflix production with a Danish company. So there's 3 seasons of this show. And in the first season, it's got a clean energy angle where there's this massive building project. This whole neighborhood is going to be built, and it's supposed to be this utopian clean energy neighborhood. And there's this tech genius guy who's invented this new bladeless wind turbine that's going to power this whole community of buildings that they're going to build for people to live in. And there's just something about this that's some kind of breakthrough, like they couldn't just have regular wind turbines, but these new bladeless wind turbines are going to be some breakthrough. So then part of the mystery is people start casting doubts on this technology. Does this actually work? And then someone releases a study. No, these aren't going to work, blah, blah, blah. So then part of the mystery is, well, is this tech guy really a genius? Is this really a clean energy breakthrough? Or is he just some kind of scammer? And that, that sort of has to get worked out through the first season. But the lead actress in this show is fantastic. Pila Viitala, which hopefully I'm saying that correctly. She's what makes the show. She's my new favorite actress. It's a great character. It's a great performance. It makes you want to keep watching the show. And then there's 3 seasons of it. So I did go on to watch the rest of it. And yeah, I don't know if Pila Viitala is like, the top actress in Finland or not, but she's absolutely fantastic in this show. But anyway, one of the other sort of running storylines in the show, in the first 2 seasons, she's got a partner at the police department, and he drives a BMW 850i, which was like a grand touring BMW sedan from like 20 years ago. Like a 2-door coupe kind of thing from 20 years ago. And it was a sexy car at the time, an expensive car at the time, but it's being driven now by this cop, and it's really old, and it's always breaking down, and they're trying to catch the bad guys, and his stupid car won't start. And they don't really address it. Like, it's like, obviously the guy should get a new car. So, and then season 3, he gets a Porsche Taycan electric car, which in some ways is like the modern equivalent of the BMW 850i. It's the new sexy kind of car to have. And again, they don't really talk about it. It's just, I always love when they use cars as part of a character's traits. You can sort of learn more about a character, but sometimes by what car they drive. But anyway, they don't ever mention that it's electric, or they don't ever mention that he's got a new car, but they kind of can use it in the same way, because at some point, like, somebody has to get into it and try and drive it, because it's this newfangled car, and, they're not quite sure how to start it. So there's the same kind of delays that he had with his old BMW 850i.
Okay. Well, I got back from almost 3 weeks away. We recorded our Patreon bonus podcast yesterday, and we went 3 weeks without recording. That's the longest hiatus in our 5.5-year history. And it took us, I said we wanted to record the Patreon first to get up and running and get back in the swing of things, because you forget everything when you take that much time off.
It's weird, yeah.
I looked at my vacation, kind of turned out to be a bit of a sabbatical, not a vacation.
Right.
Because I was researching, not just my own EV road trip with a modest electric vehicle that's not as good as most of them that you buy, but just, British Columbia, Canada is a different world.
Yeah.
Than we live in here on the Canadian prairies, that is very conservative and very oil happy. And out there, it seemed like, I know 10% of the cars are electric on the roads, technically registered, but it seemed like a third of them were electric who were actually driving around.
Well, as we know, once you have an electric car, you tend to drive it more than, if it's a household that has two cars, one gas and one electric, you drive the electric more. So yeah, if they're 10% of what's on the road, maybe they're 20% of what's actually represented because they get driven more.
But what was frustrating is that my son is renting a new condo unit that opened in December. He was the first tenant there, and they're now selling it for $425,000 for 500 square feet in Surrey, close to downtown Surrey, which is just insane. And it's got a parking garage because, it is Vancouver, where you want people to use public transportation. But I realized that all these condos, and there's countless of them going up that are identical to his, 6 stories, wood structure, which you can build timber structures up to 6 stories, I think, maybe even more now. But the first thing they do all around his neighborhood is build this massive parking garage for cars, which they don't want.
Yeah.
And there's this brand new massive cement garage down below this parking structure, and there's no outlets anywhere. Seems to be some pre-wired stuff, and I know there's new regulations that make them do that. But if I had a 110 volt outlet, which is our standard outlet here in North America, I could have plugged in and got 80 kilometers a night, something like that. Because it's 7 kilometers an hour. So 11, 12, 13 hours we were there in the apartment before we went out. And so sometimes I had to drive 6 minutes away to do public fast charging and pay a bit more. It's pretty cheap out there, but pay a bit more just so I could have my day going. But they couldn't do that. They call them strata boards out there instead of condo boards, and everything is so strict and so anal. Like my son got fined $200 for an oil stain on his driveway. They rescinded that eventually. Yeah. But if you don't let the gate close when you come in, there's a $200 fine for everything. You fart in the elevator, it's a $200 fine. Everything is very strict and stupid, and it's frustrating because you pay a lot of money for that thing, and you don't really own it. So you're like being in high school or something, and having people watch over you all the time. But it's frustrating. But I learned so much, and there was every kind of EV on the road. Everything that we've ever talked about was there in front of me. I could look at them. I said this on the bonus podcast that I was really surprised by the number of Toyota BZ4X. That's their only EV, and it's a small SUV. It's a bit smaller than a RAV4, but it's pretty massive. It's pretty, from my point of view, it's kind of big. They're everywhere. They're just everywhere. And the EV6 from Kia, everywhere. Yeah. Like almost as many as Model 3. I think if they came out at the same time, they would be a rival for the number. And there's so many Teslas on the road. But there was a Tesla charger close to my son's house. It was a bit closer. It was like 2-3 minutes away instead of 6. But it was so busy, I didn't charge there. I could have charged there. And I didn't want to piss off any Tesla owners because as a non-Tesla person on these particular chargers, I would have had to take up 2 spaces. And with people coming and going, it was just bad. Yeah, so because of where the charge port is on your car, you just have to take up 2 spots. That's just the way it is. And you have to park really close because the cables are short on they're not made for non-Tesla. So they're addressing that. But I did have a good experience with Tesla, except for one time. That's the first time. And I went to a grocery store. I said, okay, we're going to go all the way down to this grocery store, which is a long ways away, so we can charge while we get the groceries, because we have to get the groceries. We got there. We wanted groceries for 2 weeks of vacationing there. And I had an adapter, the A2Z adapter, and I couldn't get it apart. First, I found out, this Tesla charger does not work with non-Teslas. didn't check that in my app or made some sort of mistake. So that was a problem. Then I couldn't get the adapter off. And of course, the station is busy and people are looking at me, and I couldn't get the adapter off the Tesla cable. And I was Googling it, and I sent my family in, and I tried so hard that my thumb still hurts 2.5 weeks later. It still hurts. I mean, it's getting better, but it still hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And the trick is, if you have one, is you have to push both buttons and push them together before taking them apart. There's no clicking involved. It doesn't seem like it does anything, but for some reason, pushing them together and then pulling them apart. But that was a bad experience for me. I was really panicked and really terrified that I was going to lose my $200 adapter without even making much use of it yet. And yeah, but what a difference of British Columbia. What a progressive place. I mean, a lot of our listeners, we have people in California, we have people in Quebec, even Ontario, the eastern seaboard of the United States, of course, anywhere in Europe, and a lot of places in Australia and New Zealand are going to be a lot more advanced. But where we live, it's a world of difference. I mean, out there, I found free fast charging at rest stops in the forests. I pulled in by accident because I took a wrong turn, and I pulled in to pee, and there's a freaking fast charger for free. 2 of them, and a third level 3 in case those are busy that are free. So we just decided to stay in the forest and charge there. Instead of charging at a parking lot later in the day, we just sat around for a little while and enjoyed it, and there's picnic tables. That's them. By the way, we have one real rest stop in Saskatchewan, our whole province, which is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
There's been a criticism like truckers can't pull over.
Yeah.
But in BC, it's made for people. It's made for people. It's made to go there. I want to go there. I want to live there. Not here. In Saskatoon, that's the city up north in Saskatchewan of us where my kid goes to school. They had 2 free 2 free level 2 chargers, slow chargers like you would have at home at their public facilities. And they had those for a couple of years and people complained. They said, why are you giving free electricity to that type of vehicle when those people are rich? Well, look at my goddamn taxes. I am not rich at all, but I've made it work. And so now they're going to charge $5.65, which is outrageous because they pay somebody $19,000 a year to run these 2 free fast chargers. $19,000. Of course, if it was me, I wouldn't be complaining. But what an easy job. What do you have to do? Nothing. They're not even used that much, so they're not going to break. So some guy gets that much money to, interface with ChargePoint for these slow chargers. They're like 6 kilowatts. And now they're going to charge, almost 3 times as much as anybody else. So every shopping mall has level 2 chargers out there. They're busy because there's so many EVs.
Yep.
And I learned where you get them. And I also learned that the chargers are so busy out there that nobody charges at home, which I found very frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably people in like your son's situation where, maybe they even have a parking spot in a garage, but it's just not wired for power for whatever
Which
reason.
is frustrating. An outdoor spot here would be wired for block heaters because it gets so cold that you have to heat the block on your engine here in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And that would work. And that's what I'm doing for my Leaf is level 1.
Yeah.
And I get by with that because it's our second car and we're not doing a whole lot of driving with it. It actually works pretty well. And there's a lot of studies out there that say that level 1 is sufficient for a lot of people. So I figure if you had wiring for level 1 for just normal household outlets at your parking stalls, and then you put in 3-4 spots of level 2 that you pay for, which shouldn't be a lot, but they tend to be overpriced in the condos in BC because you can look on PlugShare. You just top up, right? You do 2, 3, 4 hours of topping up. You pay a little bit extra money, and then that gets you, when you need it. But a lot of people are using mass transit anyway and just using their cars for chores at night or in the weekends. Yeah, so I didn't care for that, Saskatoon. There's a tax on EVs here, which is punitive to me because it's beyond what I use my car for road tax. It's not equivalent to gas cars because one of my cars I don't use very much, relatively speaking. There's electric cars everywhere, and here, very few. There's electric buses there, of course, and they're lovely. They're quiet. They don't pollute. And here, the city that we live in is apparently going to kibosh electric bus program on Wednesday at their council meeting, according to Facebook. So, yeah. So I saw everything out there. I saw Fiskars, Lucid Air, everything you can imagine. I'm not in touch with all the luxury cars, but they were there too. And, Nissan Arias were common, but the BZ4X really blew me away how many there were. They were everywhere. And every time I saw a pickup, it was a Lightning. It was a F-1. There were some Cybertrucks, but I only saw a handful of them.
Yeah, well, the BZ4X, it's been sort of the punchline of the electric car world, and we just kind of make jokes about it because Toyota's so late and they're not selling that many.
And the wheels fell off. They recalled them immediately because the wheels were falling off. Like, that's not a Toyota quality that you want. Like, it's like they weren't trying.
But I guess people are buying them, at least in BC.
And I was back at the University of British Columbia, which is like out on a peninsula. I did some videos on Patreon. Well, everything's on Patreon. The videos, I've been posting videos multiple per day. So if you're interested in what an EV trip is like, and you don't have an EV and you're wondering, you'll get the good and the bad there for sure. And I'll get into that later in the show. But I just love UBC. They had a hydrogen station there. No lineup for that one, Brian. But one of our listeners said that there's a massive solar array on the roof that actually makes the hydrogen that goes into that charger. So that's pretty cool. And it was hot out there, and it's not normally hot out there, and there's no AC. There's no AC. So it was like 32 degrees with a 37 Humidex feel-like temperature, and I'm sweating like a pig with a fan on every quadrant of my body. And I actually brought a fan with me. A thin fan. We didn't have a lot of room in the car, but we had less people this time. And it was just, and there's no screens in the window, which I can't get over that. There's just no screens, no bugs. Like, that's what my son's coworkers, when they travel to the Saskatoon office in our province here in the prairies, say, we don't like the bugs or a few other things too. But there was no smoke. But I looked at the Clean Energy Show air quality monitor here at home, and it was bad almost every day. And I get warnings of when it deteriorated on my phone, like alerts. And holy crap, I was a smoke refugee because out there, it was a nice breeze off the ocean. It was beautiful. And then we went on a salmon nature walk at Golden Ears Provincial Park, which is not that far away. It's a beautiful area. It's got a little lake there, and it's got a dam. That's why there's a lake there. So it's a 100-year-old dam that they use for, powering one of the local communities. And so the staff there had a nature walk, so I immediately went on it at 2:00. And I learned a lot about salmon. Yeah. Salmon are a fish that swim upstream on rivers and spawn every year and then die. They die on their way up. And I was shocked to learn that 25% of the nutrients in Canada's coastal forests come from salmon, because critters drag the dead salmon into the forest. Right. And they're actually transferring nutrients from the ocean, because they spend their adult year there in the ocean and get all their nutrients, and then it brings it back to the forests. 25%. And salmon are under risk. I asked the instructors there on the tour that were young college students, how are they doing with climate change? Because you mentioned that the temperature of the water is important. They said, you just see their hearts break. Yeah. Just that question just hit them in the gut. And they said, not well. And this is a problem. And then it occurred to me, my gut broke because everything is tied together and we're fucking it up. Like everything, if salmon, one species of fish, is that important to 25% of the nutrients of the forest and all the bears and everything else that rely on the salmon, it's crazy. And then, the forest goes, forest changes, everything is connected. So one thing that gets screwed up, it's just so fragile. It just sunk in of how fragile everything is. So what are they doing with the salmon? People complained about the dam. Can you do something? They're caught and drugged to calm them down. And they sit in a tank for a day, and then they're put into a truck, and they are trucked past the dam. Wow. There's not a salmon ladder or anything like that. Yep. They're drugged to be calm, so the cortisone doesn't go into their body and stress them out, and then they are... Weird. It's crazy. I mean, you can't blame them for making a dam 100 years ago. They didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But this is the problem that there is. My son said they designed salmon ladders in engineering school. So that's a thing. There's two different kinds, he said. And I don't know how well they work. We don't have information on that. I'm guarantee you that some of our listeners know. I have a list of top weird things for my trip, Brian, now. Before I get to it later in the show of how my charging went. I saw a VW Beetle with a Starlink satellite dish on the roof, driving up the road. The guy really didn't want to be unconnected from the internet, but I guess you can do that. I would accept that in an RV, but not so much in a...
Seems weird on a Beetle, yeah.
Just before I found that free fast charging, which there are several locations in BC as rest stops, I was on a windy mountain road, a 2-lane mountain road, and all of a sudden there was a whole bunch of motorcycles coming at me with their flashers on.
Okay.
And also a police motorcycle behind. And when the police motorcycle came out and went right in front of me and sent me into the ditch, and I don't know what all that was about. Maybe one of our listeners does. Was it a protest for somebody who died on a motorcycle? Was it a funeral because all their flashers were on?
Yeah.
Was I disrespectful for not stopping? And I should have known better. I have no idea. I didn't mean to do anything. And it's just, and I've been sent into the ditch many times from people passing on that trip, especially around oil country, where I assume everyone's on meth, because it's just absolutely insane how people drive out there and send people into the ditches. So, yeah. And there was eco features on my son's building where the lights come on in the garage as you walk into it, and there's heat recovery on all the vents.
Yep.
That was cool. But yeah, there was no AC, no screens on windows. Can't get over that. Free fast charger at remote rest stops was weird. And there was free level 2 at one of the rest stops. So I plugged in. Why not? Yep. Sun Country had one, and it was like 10 kilowatts. It was pretty good.
That's great.
So I took my time with my pee and saw an innocent looking old man walking through a parking lot at a mall. And I thought I saw him key a Toyota Supra, but I couldn't believe it because it was very subtle with his thumbs. I couldn't see the key. Yep. And then when we drove to go to our location and we passed the Supra, which we saw pull up, so we know he did it, he had scratched it. So I followed him because he was wandering around the parking lot scratching other cars. He was well dressed, kind of a little bit odd looking, but he had a very bright orange backpack. And I reported him to the police. And that story is on Patreon. In fact, right from the scene while my adrenaline was high, my crime busting adrenaline was high, I recorded from the scene there.
No,
so that was weird.
I was quite riveted by that story, and kudos to you for going through with that. And yeah, the guy actually got arrested.
And then somebody came up to me who was witnessing the whole thing, and he says, the way I could tell if you're from Saskatchewan is that you stopped and helped. I think BC people are very friendly, but you get into a big city kind of thing where you kind of stick to yourselves.
Yeah.
And my son says nobody talks to him in the building, but we ended up breaking the ice with some people in the elevator, and there was one person coming home from the hospital with her baby. And it's like a big moment for her. And she was really appreciative that we wished her well and was moved by it because she didn't know who we were. And she was alone with her baby while her husband was parking the car for the first time. So you could tell she was a bit tense, and, it was just worked out to be like that. It was a big moment in her life.
Yeah, we still kind of have more of that small town thing of helping people out. I remember when I was in Toronto, I used to give people a boost, like in the wintertime, somebody's car had stopped, and a couple of times I would boost them because no one else would stop for them.
Oh, really?
And, we have a history of looking out for ourselves because it's so damn cold in the winter. You could just die if you don't help out your neighbor.
And I went to the Swift Current Casino because Bob, one of our listeners, said there's new chargers there. But my charging experience didn't go well because the charger cut off while I was in the casino looking for a cheap hot dog. They were not cheap.
Right.
And everyone in the casino was like studying us and offering us free ice cream and popcorn, but not food. And only because they wanted us to gamble, and everyone in the casino looks like they're haggard and shouldn't be there. I hate casinos. Don't like them. Don't like the idea of it. I know people who have gambling addictions in my life, and I do not care for it. So that was weird. And then we went to a Tesla supercharger next door, and of course, no one was there.
Yeah.
And only one person showed up after an hour of charging. There was a nice hotel manager in Lethbridge where they had 2 great EV chargers, 10 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Too fast, actually, because your car charges too fast overnight. Yeah, she was great. But then she said when I came back the second time, how was charging at BC? Did the grid do okay? That was her comment. Did the grid crash? And she had these somehow, it's important that you tell your hotel person that you are there for the EV charging so they know. Yes. Always say that. Put it on your reservation in the comments, ask about them, call ahead sometimes to make sure they're not blocked by an ICE vehicle.
Yeah.
But these were great, brand new. And no. She said that people from other hotels, because there was a group of hotels on the edge of the city, were coming over and using the chargers. She ran the license plate and knew they weren't hers. So then she had to you had to get a card from the front desk to activate the charger and get the card back. Because I'm not surprised by that. And she said she's not, but she's disappointed.
Yeah, so far it just seems to be mostly the honor system at these hotel chargers. They just assume that you're there. But yeah, eventually there's going to have to be controls on all of them, I would guess. All right, so let's move on. A story here from The Guardian. And I thought this was interesting because I thought this, sounded like a plot you hear in movies all the time, right? Like this is very much a modern movie plot. Hackers took control of a dam in Norway. And, as our grid gets more smart and more interconnected and more elaborate in terms of the electronic controls and whatnot, it does open up the possibility that our infrastructure can be hacked. So that's a thing you'll always see in a movie where some hackers are going to shut down a grid somewhere or something because they can hack into it. Well, it is, technically possible and gets probably more so every day because of how interconnected all this stuff is. It was originally reported that it was a hydroelectric dam, which got me interested because, that's exactly the movie thing, right? Like the infrastructure. Yeah. Turns out it was actually just for fish. It was a fish dam for fish farming. So Russian hackers took control of a Norwegian dam, opening a floodgate and allowing water to flow unnoticed for 4 hours, Norway's intelligence service has said. The attack on the dam, which is used for farming fish, released 500 liters of water a second for 4 hours until it was detected and then stopped. The Norwegian Police Security Service says the aim of this type of operation is to influence and to cause fear and chaos among the general population. The incident did not cause any injuries or damage because the water level of the dam and the dam, which is close to the town of Svelgen, was a long way below flood capacity. So yeah, they couldn't do any real damage because everything was at these sort of lower levels. But yeah, imagine, that makes it very possible that someone could hack say a hydroelectric dam. And maybe when it's at its peak, when maybe, everything's at its massive capacity and, someone could do some actual damage.
Well, I hope there's safeguards in place. And when it is at its peak, that people are maybe more watching the dam than normal, but also, our electrical grids seem vulnerable. We don't know that foreign actors may have access and they're just waiting for the opportune time or for the time to do something negative, but it's all part of our connected world, Brian.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about my charging. Remember, I have a Chevy Bolt EV. It's a compact car that has 417 official kilometers of range, which is like, what is that? A little over 300 miles or something. And it charges slow, 50 kilowatts, which a lot of other cars charge at 150 or better now. And your Teslas charge at what, 250 plus?
Yep. 256 something like that. Is sort of the max I get.
And that's a big difference. But I felt like in the mountains that I was charging a Tesla because, we had 3 8-hour days of driving, and because we took the Crow's Nest Pass route, which is quiet and beautiful, and I think I would do it again. It was a windy though, but you have to take those rest stops, but you can. And I only had to charge for like 25 minutes, like a better road planner was saying, 25 minutes here and 25 minutes there, and maybe another 5-minute stop while you had to go pee anyway.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's nothing. It was not an inconvenience. Even with my car, it wasn't an inconvenience. So for anybody else, it's going to be way better.
Yeah, I remember when I had a gas car, getting really good gas mileage through the mountains because like you use more going up the mountain, but you don't use twice as much. And then you're going down the mountain. In a gas car, you use nothing. In an electric car, of course, you get the regen. So it seems to be helpful for efficiency.
I've got a video where we went up a mountain, not part of our trip, but part of our vacation at the destination. Went up a mountain to a ski resort where everyone was hiking. And then I went back down and I gained it was a lot. It was like, I can't remember if it was 80 kilometers, but I think it was about 80 kilometers that I gained going down the mountain.
Yeah.
Because it was constant regen. And yeah, that was just, we did a video about that, and it's pretty cool to see. You don't gain 100% because there's efficiencies lost there, but you gain a lot of it back. So, and that's just kind of what a trip is, going up and down mountains. Yeah, it's lovely. In my Prius, you could get a little bit of regen, but the battery would fill up right away, and then you'd hear this high revving sound because it couldn't deal with it. Yeah. So Lethbridge was my first hotel stop, and I don't care for Lethbridge as a city that much because it smells funny.
They have the wonderful Water Tower restaurant, which I would recommend. It's an old water tower. Oh, that is a
restaurant. We were talking about that. Our hotel was by that.
Yes,
that's
I've eaten there.
That's an actual restaurant.
It's a water tower that's been converted to a restaurant. I love it. It's fantastic.
Does it smell like water?
No, it's very civilized. You take an elevator up. It's totally surprising, but whoever did that is like some kind of weird, eccentric genius.
Which we don't have enough of in this world, I guess. So I had 2 charges there. So that's great. You arrive there and you have 100% in the morning. That's your ideal situation.
Yeah.
The problem is some hotels in bigger cities where there's no EVs going through Lethbridge. I mean, literally. But in bigger cities like Calgary, you can get there and the chargers are all full, or maybe they only have 1 or 2. So, and I know that's happened to you, but for the most part, you've been okay with that. So I tried to book hotels with chargers, but they weren't available for the rest of the trip because our second stop was Castlegar. And Castlegar doesn't even have a nice hotel. They don't have a James level hotel, like, I'm not asking much, but they don't have anything great there. But when we got there, there was a thunderstorm, which is kind of rare. They said they don't get them that often at that part of the country. And I guess that it started to rain. My daughter was taking a turn driving, and we were approaching Castlegar, and there was this man in the middle of the road during this thunderstorm, and we hit the brakes and we're slowing down, and he was gathering rocks because there was a rock fall that went on the road. So if we had hit those rocks, which were maybe softball size, some of them, we would have damaged our car. And my daughter avoided them, fortunately, but there was other people who weren't so lucky who were pulling over ahead. So I'd never experienced a rock fall before.
Yeah, I've certainly seen the signs before that you're driving through the mountains and it says watch for falling rock, but no, I've never actually seen it.
Talk about your helpers. That's a guy who's, helping other people because he parked a long ways away, and you're really risking your life in a thunderstorm. Because it was also dusk. It was dark. So it was a sketchy situation for that person. But they were helping other people not damage their cars. So in one place in Castlegar on the way back, we tried a different charger because the flow chargers are letting me down, and I'm going to talk about that. You've heard me say really good things about the flow charging network in Canada. It's also in the States, but they're a Canadian company. I'm now a little bit pissed off at them. I had they had a faster charger. The problem is the 50 kilowatt charger should be enough for my car, which charges at 53 maximum. It should be fine, but I'm only getting 43 when I go to those chargers. It might be a voltage thing. There's lots of smart people who listen to our show who are electrical engineers and such that may know why that is, but I'm only getting 43, and that's not good enough. If I can get 10 kilowatts better, it's pretty significant. It would chop off minutes of my, quite a few minutes of my charging, which you want the best that you can get. So I went to the visitor center after dark in Castlegar, and there was no lighting. So, and there was a person who was sleeping. I wasn't a homeless person. It could have been a backpacker or somebody, but somebody was sleeping kind of, you don't really know what they're up to. They were sleeping on the step of the visitor center because there was Wi-Fi probably, but there wasn't lighting. There was lighting elsewhere, but not for these chargers. So that's, if you're a woman by yourself, you probably would avoid something like that a lot of times because you're attached to the charger. You can't drive away. There is a product that breaks away that you can use that I've seen advertised. I don't think it's a problem per se because I've never heard of an actual example of a problem happening, but it's always a risk.
If you see the new Naked Gun movie, you'll realize that driving away with the cable attached can be a big problem.
Okay. So, I've been a big fan of Flow, but, 50 kilowatt chargers nowadays, no. you have to be upgrading those. And also, the co-op stores here, they had sketchy chargers they tried, but they replaced the 2 pairs of chargers with 1. So you go to a co-op, there's only 1. So I went to the co-op in Medicine Hat, which is a charging desert, on the way there. And as soon as I got there, the charger was gone. It was taken just there. So I had to go a few blocks away to the other one, and there was only one other one. So that was sketchy. And I noticed, I don't know if this is an update to a better route planner, but they will actually show you the chargers and if they're in use that you're going to. So even if you're traveling for 4 hours, you can see it used and unused. And it'll be a circle that is either green or red, and it's broken down into sections depending how many chargers there are. And if it's a Tesla it's sending you to, then it'll just be gray because it won't have that information. For some reason, Tesla is networked and shares it with itself and Tesla users, but they're not sharing it with other people yet, which is too bad. And I'm sure that'll change eventually. And also, there's a very important charging location between us and Saskatoon here in Saskatchewan. And the Tesla charger in Davidson, or not the Tesla charger, which we can't use, unfortunately, the non-Tesla people can't use. There's 2 flow chargers, and one's been broken since I went through there in November.
Yeah.
There's a plastic latch on it, and they're not listening to PlugShare. So I complained about that on Twitter yesterday and got the co-op store, which is very EV forward and positive and helpful. They might even be listening to this show. And they said that they weren't aware of it. They've escalated the situation.
Okay.
And somebody already promised that they would do that with the co-op organization, and they didn't. There's 20 reports of it not working since April, and that's the furthest back the archive reviews on PlugShare will go. That's an app that you use to find chargers and see if they're working, and they do that based on reviews. So, so Tesla chargers were insane, so it wasn't a usable option for me.
Yeah, just too busy, and you'd have to take up 2 spots.
So I sought out leisure centers, and one of the leisure centers I went to, I'd actually stayed at a hotel there before, right down the same lot, and it was half price because no one was charging there.
Yeah.
So BC Hydro had a 1-month half price. So that was a bit far, but it's cheap is good, free is good, half price is good.
Yeah, and this was all...
And nobody gets free gas or half price gas. They'd be raving about that.
Well, that's probably what they wanted in Saskatoon. It's like, how does this person get free electricity, but I don't get free gas? That's the complaint.
And I have to pay for it with my taxes. But come on. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So BC was consistently, Tesla's quite expensive when you get onto the prairies. It's like 84 cents a kilowatt hour for me. That's insane. It was 36 in BC because I think they standardize it, or at least they give them free. And I didn't care for the SkyTrain, Brian. Mm-hmm. Well, Brian, I've taken my first SkyTrain in Vancouver, the metro system here, which is mostly above ground. It was packed. It's only 2 cars. Would have killed them. The platforms can handle more than 2 cars. So I have that report on our Patreon page, but I couldn't find a good example. But here's a YouTube video. It was really loud and screechy, kind of like the New York subway I was on in Harlem, not Harlem. I forget where it was, but it was in New York subway was really loud and squeaky, and it felt like it was 100 years old. And the videos really don't capture it because people's cameras and they're not made to pick up the full sound that these things are making. But I found it piercing. Yeah. And they don't have to be like that. Like, I just watched a video of the commuter train in California that's electric. And I guess they almost went out of business during the pandemic. And then they got some tax funding added onto it. And it's thriving now because it's electric.
Yeah.
And it's faster. The electric trains are so much faster that it reduces your commute time by a pretty significant amount. And it's so quiet, you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
You can't even hear it outside the train. Like, why can't Vancouver have quiet trains? Like, does that not exist?
Yeah, and it's a newer system. Like, it hasn't been around that long, so you'd think that, it would be more perhaps advanced than that.
My son says some of the trains are better than others. Some of the lines are more modern train cars. But come on, you want people to take transit. You don't want them to take cars. It has to be more appealing than it is. I come from a small city that doesn't have such a thing. No one even takes the bus here, hardly, unless you're at a poor economic level. Generally speaking, there are some people who do. I used to take the bus to university across the whole city. But it's just, you have to entice people to take it. My daughter went to a tour of an arts college she wants to go to, Emily Carr, and she was on it for an hour and never got to sit down.
Right, yeah.
Now, she's 17. She can handle it.
Yeah.
But, and one time, she couldn't hang on anywhere, I guess, for another train ride, and somebody said, hey, to this person who was hogging the pole, let this person do that. So that's nice. But it has to be more people. Why can't everyone sit down? Why can't you double? The stations can handle at least double the cars.
Yeah.
Why not double the cars and get people to do it? Because I think the ridership will go up if you have a good experience.
Yeah, well, it makes me think I was talking a lot about the Elizabeth line from my trip to London a few weeks ago. And the Elizabeth line in London is the newest one, and it's so fantastic. It's like the trains are great. They're nice and large. And, the older trains, the older routes are not as good. But, I went to the design museum and I watched a video about how they're really trying hard to, when they replace the cars in the older stations, to design them better, to make them more comfortable.
All right. Well, I just think you could do better. I don't think everyone has to stand up. As an old semi-handicapped person, I had a hard time going downstairs. My knees have a hard time going down the stairs, and they make you go down the stairs. There should be escalators everywhere. Yep. It should be easy. It should be appealing. It should be quiet. It should be pleasant. You shouldn't have to stand up like sardines in a non-rush hour setting. And I know I don't know anything about this stuff, and I know that that's the way it kind of has to be, but you could do it more like commuter trains and make it just a lot more pleasant, I think. They're not, there's no personnel on the trains driving them, so they're automated. There's the biggest automated system in the world, earliest one. Let's get more cars on there. Let's invest in better cars and better experiences for people.
All right, so let's dip into the mailbag. I was talking on the show about my cottage build that's coming up and the possible hydronic heating system. So here's an email regarding that. As usual, great podcast, guys. I like Brian's idea of hydronic heating. I was just listening to a podcast last week, the Heat Pump podcast, focused towards installers where they discuss air-to-water heat pumps. Sounds great in theory, much easier to replace the unit when it finally breaks down. It does seem, though, that most installers are not familiar with them and may quote a high install price. Keep us updated on how it goes. I'd love to get a ground source heat pump for those minus 30 days. I live in Ottawa, but on my tiny property, I don't think it's feasible, and that letter is from Henry. So, thanks so much, Henry. I did watch this video. If you're interested, the channel on YouTube is called Amply Energy, and this one is The Future of Heat Pumps. Hint, it's air to water. A conversation with Ross Cherthui, who I know from This Old House. I like to watch This Old House occasionally, and Ross Cherthui is one of the experts on that show that consults on the builds, and he's the son of another Cherthui that was previously on the show. But anyway, this is a great chat. It's an hour long, and if you're interested in this kind of thing, specifically air-to-water heat pumps, it's a great watch. Ross Cherthui is an expert in this thing, air-to-water heat pumps, but it sounds like it mostly because he does really expensive builds. So he's got a consulting and engineering company to do HVAC, and he was talking about, he's doing 30,000 square foot houses and stuff. He's somehow gotten himself into
insane.
Yeah, maybe his celebrity from This Old House lets him, sort of get into that world. So, and, like This Old House itself, every season they seem to get more and more expensive and elaborate builds. So because he's on the high end of things in terms of installing these things, he's sort of ahead of the curve. So that was the sort of disappointing part. So what I want to do is an air to water heat pump to heat my floors. And it sounds like, at least here in North America, this is still very much early days for this. It's still a difficult thing to find an installer who will do it.
Yeah.
The good news is that in-floor heating doesn't have to be as high a temperature as a boiler. So if you're trying to replace a gas boiler and a house that has existing radiators, that's very difficult to do with a heat pump because it's just sized wrong, and it's difficult to get a heat pump to get the water up to that same temperature that you need to kind of match the gas boiler. But I thought it was a really interesting watch. So thanks so much to Henry for sending that along. I learned a lot, but it makes me nervous. I'm going to have to find somebody around here that actually knows how to do this.
I know, and that's a bigger challenge here than most places. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
You brought up mansions, and my son, part of our many tours of the Greater Vancouver area was the rich area in North Vancouver on the hills, which reminded me of Hollywood Hills because there was these, spectacular mansions. And then I looked them up on MLS, the multiple listing service real estate site. They're only $8 to $10 million.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, but it seems like a bargain if there's $500,000 for a 500 square foot box.
Yeah, right.
That my son's renting.
It's true.
And then you got your own mansion on a hill. And by the way, the view is of the ocean.
Wow.
Because it's stepped up like an IMAX theater on. I thought that's the best bargain going. I should get rich.
Yeah.
Because, that $10 million per square foot even.
Yeah.
There's a lot of square foot there. That's not so bad. Like they'd be 50, 100 million, 200 million in LA, I'm sure. So,
no,
but it's really rainy there. So that's the problem.
That's the downside. Yeah. I was the cinematographer on a documentary one time, and we interviewed somebody in Vancouver, and he had a pretty big house with an ocean view, but, he had bought it in the 60s or something. So, he paid nothing for it and, would be worth an insane amount now.
Also, their driveways were like a 20% grade. So if it iced over, you would slide right down through the street and into the next mansion below you, I think. I don't know how they do it. Like I will say this, an electric car would be the thing to go to and from there. And I did notice a lot. There was the most Leafs, the old school Leafs I've seen was in that area for some reason. And my son said, well, maybe it's the help. Maybe the help is driving those. I don't know. So we got lots of letters to get to. Unfortunately, we're going to have to save some of them for next week because we've gone way long. But I will do one more because it is an older letter that that came in just when we recorded our last show, and the person's been waiting here. I have a friend that has begun to develop neurological type symptoms. Are there any cases that you are familiar with where they must quit the exposure to VOCs by quitting their job? Enjoy your show. Thanks for any info. Gloria FAKA. Cat Lady on Patreon. Thank you for that letter. We do talk a lot about VOCs. I'm going to talk a lot more about them because I'm going to upgrade to a second VOC air quality monitor outside after I run some tests with my indoor air quality monitor, which does VOCs and seems to do them quite well. So I want to do that with the refinery and various industrial pollution in my area here and talk about that. And I know from that book that I participated in, very bad things happen, including neurological disorders. So Gloria, I didn't find a whole lot, but I did find some information that says that, not specific examples, but working at a gas station can lead to neurological issues, primarily from chronic exposure to hydrocarbons and the solvents found in gasoline. There's cleansers that they add to the gasoline, which are also harmful. This seems so archaic to us who've been driving electric for years that this is even necessary anymore, but here we are. These vapors, they can affect the central nervous system of the person who is pumping gas on a regular basis. Symptoms may include headaches, dizziness, confusion, fatigue, cognitive and memory problems, and behavioral changes like increased aggression. Long-term exposure to substances like benzene and toluene are also found in gasoline, has been linked to a range of neurological and neurobehavioral symptoms and can impact neurotransmitter orders. People, go get an electric car if you drive. Don't buy another gasoline car. When even small quantities of hydrocarbons enter the bloodstream, it can reduce the functioning of the central nervous system and cause organ damage. Gasoline is not just toxic when people ingest it. The person can also sustain damage to the skin, eyes, and lungs when they come to contact with gasoline liquid or the fumes or vapors of gasoline. Burning gasoline releases several harmful chemicals, one of which was a carbon monoxide. It's colorless and odorless. And Brian, I was talking about how hot it was in Vancouver with nobody has air conditioning.
Yeah.
Well, I had a fan blowing in, and my son lives on a fairly busy street, 24 hours a day. And I thought, is that refinery? No, that's people driving.
Yeah, just the fumes from driving.
And it would be a lot worse if everyone, there's a third of them on the road seem to be electric, so it'd be even worse.
Well, we know that leaded gasoline was phased out many years ago, which was even worse when we had lead in our gasoline. I can't remember where I heard it, but I think I heard someone say you can still get leaded gasoline at airports because there's a lot of like older airplanes that still need leaded gas to run. So even leaded gas is not really truly phased out yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the rest of your letters next week. If you want to contact us, please do, because we love to hear from you on anything that's on your mind. Clean Energy Show, all one word, at gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail online at speakpipe.com/Clean Energy Show, or join the conversation on our Patreon page, which more and more people are doing. And it is our social media hub and our community hub, as well as our Discord server there. If you join our Patreon today as a paying member, you do get access to our exclusive Patreon episodes. But if you don't want to, you can get free access to a lot of our content, including all my vacation videos are pretty much there for free. And you'll also get ad-free episodes if you do pay, exclusive access to the Discord server, discounts at our merch store, early access to episodes, behind-the-scenes materials, thank you credits on our podcast, and more.
All right, Colorado has put health warning labels on gas stoves. This is from Canary Media, and this follows exactly what you were saying about, harmful vapors and whatnot from gasoline. Well, we all know it's the same thing for natural gas. Mounting evidence shows that gas stoves used in nearly 40% of U.S. homes pose serious health risks. We know this from listening to this show. Gas stoves sold in the state of Colorado will need a yellow health warning label under a first-in-the-nation law that went into effect earlier this month. It's fair to warn people, especially if they have health impacts from poor air quality, to know what they're buying in advance, said State Senator Kathy Kipp, a Democrat who co-sponsored the legislation. Like other gas-burning appliances and gasoline-burning cars, gas ranges spew noxious compounds such as carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxide. Even off, they emit benzene, a potent carcinogen found in secondhand cigarette smoke. Breathing in the fumes from gas ranges increases the risk of cancer, especially in kids. Children in homes of gas stoves are also estimated to have 42% more likely risk to develop asthma. We know that this information has not been reaching the public at the point of sale, said a public advocate for the nonprofit Coperg organization. So the manufacturers have fought back. They've taken this to court. They're trying to stop this. So there's essentially a sort of a temporary injunction in place, so they don't have to put the labels on just yet, even though this has become the law. But yeah, it's the first state to do this. Massachusetts and New York are pondering the same thing. They could be next. Last year, proposals in Illinois and California both failed, although they got close in California. Ultimately, Gavin Newsom vetoed the bill. So this very much falls in line with other rules they have in Colorado. They're fairly forward-thinking when it comes to these kinds of pollution laws. So yeah, this is just, a fair warning kind of sticker on the appliance. It's going to be like a QR code, and you can look and see more information about all of this. And that sticker is, going to have to be on the gas appliances.
All right, thank you. Coming up next is the lightning round.
So, when I ask, what is Odoo? What comes to mind? Well, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a suite of business management software that some people say is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. But some people also say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. But then again, you could look at Odoo in terms of how its individual software programs are a lot like building blocks. I mean, whatever your business needs. Manufacturing, accounting, HR programs, you can build a custom software suite that's perfect for your company. So, what is Odoo? Well, I guess Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a fertilizer, magic beanstalk building blocks for business. Yeah, that's it. Which means that Odoo is exactly what every business needs. Learn more and sign up now at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
It's time for the lightning round.
The lightning round is a fast-paced look at the latest headlines in climate, clean energy, and transportation.
Ukraine's general staff said it carried out a fresh attack on Russia's Druzhba oil pipeline system on Monday, and the pumping station halted pumping fossil fuels delivery to Europe. It's still doing it through Ukraine from Russia to Europe. Hungary's foreign minister said that the attack caused a disruption, saying it is currently unknown when the transformer station can be repaired and deliveries restored. So maybe get some renewables, Hungary. Surprising EV stats from some smaller nations, Brian. Nepal's EV share of new car sales hits 87.6%. Talked about it before, but still, wow. Sri Lanka, 84.3%. There's a country we probably haven't even mentioned on the show before, and somehow it has snuck up to that high of a level of new car sales being electric. Singapore is at 33%. And I'm kind of mystified how anyone owns a car in Singapore since it's a city-state. But there you go, 33%. Not bad. China added a record 212 gigawatts of solar in the first half of this year. That is double the pace of the year prior. Now, we were saying a lot, and a lot of pundits were saying, can't go any higher. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They doubled it.
Doubled it.
But now in 1 year, but now they're saying the H2 market reforms are different because they're not guaranteeing prices for when you put up a solar farm. They're no longer guaranteeing sort of, you have to compete in a electricity market now. So that's going to slow things down. Maybe. We'll see. 6 months after freezing a $5 billion program for states to build EV chargers, the Trump administration has backed down and reopened the NEVI program. You can see that on Canary Media. It's time for a CS Fast Fact. As recently as the 1980s, Madrid would see around 29 days of temperatures above 30 degrees. Now, it's double that. So that's the type of thing you think a century from now.
Yeah.
You hear stuff like that for some regions. It's already doubled it from the 80s. That's 63 from 29. In the UK, the EU government poll there has found that 8 in 10 back more clean energy. So you hear a lot of bluster about anti-clean energy in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, no, 8 in 10 want more. Volkswagen delivers its 1.5 millionth ID model, their ID line of electric models.
Yeah, that's great.
Covers a variety of vehicles. 1.5 million of them are now on the roads. Financing to oil, gas, and coal projects by Wall Street's top 6 banks are down 25% this year through August 1, year on year. America's support for nuclear energy is at an all-time high. Not surprising, I don't think, considering.
Yeah.
Climate change could make droughts for wind power 15% longer. A drought for wind power is an unexpected lack of wind for a period of time. And the climate change, like they're making smoke cut out my solar, is also providing perhaps wind down 15% longer. The droughts are, it's from Carbon Brief. UK electric bus market is up 80% in the first half of the year on year. And we're killing it here in our city. Supposedly, National Weather Service to restore hundreds of jobs cut under Trump. Will it be in time for the hurricane that's out there? Who knows? And finally, this week in April, China installed more solar power in 1 month than Australia, who is a global leader in solar, as we know from day one of the show. They're crazy solar down there.
Yeah.
And all of its history, China did that in 1 month. All the solar in the history of Australia, where like 30% of the rooftops have solar on them, and solar farms galore. China did that in 1 month. Well, they are a big country, but that's still pretty impressive.
Yes. And on that note, we are going to end the show. Please contact us, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. We are Clean Energy Pod around social media. And of course, patreon.com/cleanenergypod. And always check out the merch store and see what you can get. And remember to hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast app to get these new shows every single week.
And a reminder that you can check out my 4,000-kilometer EV road trip on our Patreon page for free. Go see my vacation videos because my family won't watch them. Thank you to all our supporting people who have supported our show for our climate positive content. We'll see you again in 7 days.
See you next week.